All that money shouldn't go to someone who married into the family. She doesn't understand our legacy or values, I heard my sister-in-law Nessa say through the kitchen doorway. Her voice was quiet but sharp, like the knife she was using to slice the anniversary cake. $23 million. What does Valerie even know about managing that kind of wealth? Grandmother should have left it to those of us with actual Bennett blood. Her words cut through me as I stood frozen in the hallway, the bottle of chilled champagne growing warm in my hands. I'd come to help with our anniversary celebration preparations, but instead discovered what my husband's sister really thought of me. She'll probably spend it all on ridiculous renovations and clothes. Nessa continued to whoever was listening. Someone needs to protect that inheritance before she wastes everything our family built over generations. I backed away silently, my throat tight with betrayal. 5 years of family dinners, holiday celebrations, and what I thought were genuine smiles, all while she secretly resented me for marrying her brother, for being remembered in her grandmother's will. But what happened 3 months later at our anniversary party went beyond resentment. I was arranging flowers near the kitchen island when I glanced up to see Nessa standing alone by the drink table. She looked around quickly, then reached into her clutch purse. A small white pill appeared between her fingers. With practiced precision, she dropped it into one of the crystal flutes, the one decorated with a silver ribbon, my glass, which she herself had marked earlier. The tablet dissolved instantly, leaving only a momentary fizz that disappeared within seconds. My heart hammered against my ribs as she smiled to herself, apparently satisfied with whatever she had just done. Time seemed to slow as I processed what I'd witnessed. My sister-in-law had just drugged my drink at my own anniversary party, in the home I'd renovated with the inheritance that she clearly believed should belong to her family. The musicians began playing our wedding song in the garden, my cue to join everyone outside. Nessa turned toward the sound, then picked up the tray of champagne flutes. I ducked behind a column as she walked past, carrying what was intended to be my poisoned glass. My mind raced through possibilities. What had she put in there? Something to make me sick? To embarrass me in front of our guests? Or something worse? I thought of her increasingly frequent questions about my health since the inheritance, her sudden interest in becoming my financial advisor, the way she'd asked to be added to our home security system, just in case. Confronting her would cause a scene, devastate my husband Theo, and potentially split the family forever. But drinking whatever she'd slipped into my glass wasn't an option. The garden lights twinkled as guests mingled on the stone patio. Theo waved at me from across the lawn, his smile wide and unsuspecting. How could I tell him his beloved sister had just tried to drug me? Would he even believe me? I watched Nessa approach him, carrying the tray of specially marked glasses. "Special glasses for the happy couple," she announced, handing him his glass before scanning the crowd for me. My opportunity came unexpectedly when the caterer called for her assistance. "The chef was asking for you in the kitchen," I told her. "Something about the dessert presentation?" The moment she disappeared inside, I made my move. I switched my glass with her husband Caleb's, placing it exactly where he'd been standing before he stepped away to greet another guest. My hands trembled slightly, but the deed was done in seconds. When everyone gathered again for the toast, Nessa returned, her eyes repeatedly drifting to my glass, the one she thought was mine but now belonged to her husband, Caleb, a man who rarely questioned her decisions. It picked up the flute without hesitation. "To 5 wonderful years," Theo proclaimed, raising his glass. Everyone drank. I brought the champagne to my lips but didn't swallow, watching Caleb over the rim of my glass. Within minutes, he began loosening his tie. His movements became uncoordinated as he stumbled against a chair. When he tried to excuse himself, his speech slurred noticeably. Perspiration beaded on his temples despite the evening chill. "Are you feeling well?" I asked calmly. Nessa stared at her husband, then at me. The color drained from her face as realization dawned in her eyes. She knew I knew, and now her husband was suffering the effects of whatever she had intended for me. "He needs help," I announced to the room. "Someone call an ambulance." As guests clustered around Caleb, I gripped Nessa's wrist. "Whatever you put in that drink will be found in his system," I whispered. Imagine explaining that to the doctors. To him. Her eyes widened with fear, and for the first time since I'd known her, Nessa had nothing to say. I've never shared this story publicly before now. If you've ever felt betrayed by someone you trusted, someone who should have been family, hit that like button. Subscribe to hear more stories about justice served cold. Comment below if you've ever caught someone in a moment of absolute betrayal. I read every comment. My name is Valerie, and until that night 3 years ago, I believed family meant unconditional love and acceptance. I'd grown up in a modest household with parents who worked multiple jobs to give me opportunities they never had. Meeting Theo felt like winning the lottery, not because of his family's status, but because he saw me for who I truly was, ambitious yet kind, determined yet vulnerable. When his grandmother June took an immediate liking to me, I was touched. She invited me for tea weekly, showing me photo albums and telling stories about her late husband's business ventures. June had built their family fortune through smart investments after her husband died young. Most people thought I should sell everything and live quietly, she once told me. But I learned the business inside and out, proved them all wrong. I admired her strength and independence. We bonded over our shared experiences of being underestimated. While Theo's siblings visited June only on holidays or when they needed financial assistance, I genuinely enjoyed her company. Never once did I imagine she would leave her estate to me, instead of dividing it among her grandchildren. The reading of her will left everyone shocked, none more than Nessa, whose face contorted with disbelief when the lawyer announced I would inherit June's countryside property and investment portfolio, valued at approximately $23 million. There must be some mistake, Nessa had said, her voice trembling. Grandmother wouldn't leave everything to someone who isn't even blood family. But June's instructions were clear. Her letter, read aloud by the attorney, explained, Valerie has shown genuine interest in preserving my late husband's legacy. She visited without wanting anything but my company. I trust her judgment and heart to protect what George and I built together. Theo was stunned but supportive. Grandmother always had her reasons, he said afterward, hugging me as I sat numb with surprise. She must have seen something special in you. His brother Caleb shrugged it off with seemingly good humor. Well, at least it stays in the family, right? Congratulations, Val. Only Nessa couldn't hide her resentment. Her congratulations came through clenched teeth, her hug stiff and brief. The following weeks revealed the depth of her jealousy. She began suggesting financial advisors, all mysteriously connected to her somehow. She questioned my renovation plans for June's historic country house. Shouldn't Theo have more input? She'd ask. After all, he grew up visiting that house. You're new to all this. When I declined her recommended financial team, choosing instead advisors from the firm June had trusted for decades, Nessa became increasingly intrusive. She'd drop by unannounced to check on things. She asked pointed questions about my health when I missed a family dinner due to a migraine. Family history of illness? She'd inquired with unusual interest. Any medications you take regularly? Some health conditions skip generations, you know. Theo dismissed my concerns. She's just worried about you, he insisted. You're working too hard managing the estate and your job. Nessa means well, but the night she asked to be added to our home security system in case of emergencies, I couldn't shake my unease. I started paying more attention to her actions, noticing small things, how she'd scan papers left on my desk when she thought I wasn't looking, her whispered phone conversations that stopped when I entered a room. The anniversary party was my peace offering, a celebration at the newly renovated country estate to include everyone in June's legacy. I wanted to show Theo's family that I considered the inheritance a responsibility to the entire Bennett family, not just personal wealth. The morning of the party, I woke early to oversee final preparations. The house looked magnificent, with flowers from June's garden arranged throughout and photographs of the family displayed prominently. I'd even framed Theo's childhood drawing of the house, hanging it in the entrance hall. Nessa arrived hours before other guests. I came to help, she announced, carrying a bag of supplies. You shouldn't have to manage everything alone on your anniversary. I thanked her, touched by what seemed like a genuine olive branch. Let me arrange the toast, she insisted with unusual eagerness. You should be enjoying yourself. I agreed, not realizing her true intentions until that moment in the kitchen, when I saw the white pill dissolve in my drink. Now, as the paramedics rushed into our garden party, lifting Caleb onto a stretcher, guests murmured in concern. Theo hovered nearby, his face tight with worry for his brother-in-law. What happened? He asked, gripping my hand. He was fine 1 minute then. I squeezed his fingers, uncertain how to respond. How could I tell my husband that his sister had tried to drug me? That I had switched the glasses in a moment of self-preservation? Nessa knelt beside the stretcher, her face a mask of concern as she stroked Caleb's forehead. But when our eyes met over her husband's semi-conscious form, I saw something dangerous flicker there, a mix of hatred and fear. The paramedics asked what he'd consumed. Before anyone could answer, I stepped forward. Just champagne, as far as I know, I said calmly. But perhaps a full toxicology screen would be wise. Nessa's head snapped up, her eyes widening. Yes, I continued. We should be thorough. We wouldn't want to miss anything important. As the ambulance doors closed with Caleb inside, Nessa turned to me, her composure cracking slightly. I should go with him, she said, her voice unsteady. Of course, I replied evenly. We'll follow in our car. In the chaos of the moment, our guests hardly noticed the tension between us. Theo was already apologizing to everyone, explaining that the party would need to end early due to the medical emergency. During the drive to the hospital, Theo gripped the steering wheel, his knuckles white. What do you think happened? Food allergy? Bad reaction to the champagne? I kept my eyes on the road ahead. I'm not sure, I said carefully, but I'm worried about Caleb. The waiting room was eerily quiet when we arrived. Nessa sat alone, her designer dress wrinkled, mascara smudged beneath her eyes, a rare moment of imperfection for someone who prided herself on flawless appearances. They're running tests, she told Theo when he rushed to her side. They think it might be some kind of drug reaction. Her eyes flickered to mine briefly, a silent warning passing between us. Drug reaction? Theo repeated, confused. But Caleb doesn't take anything besides his blood pressure medication. Doesn't take anything besides his blood pressure medication. The doctor emerged an hour later, clipboard in hand. Mrs. Bennett, he called, and Nessa stood immediately. Your husband is stable now, he explained, but we found some concerning substances in his system that shouldn't be there. Has he been taking any new medications recently? Any recreational substances? Nessa's face went pale. No, nothing like that. He's very careful because of his heart condition. The doctor nodded gravely. Well, what we found could have triggered a serious cardiac event given his condition. It's fortunate you got him here quickly. We'd like to keep him overnight for observation. When the doctor left, Nessa sank back into her chair, shoulders hunched. I don't understand, Theo said, running a hand through his hair. How could this happen? I touched his arm gently. Why don't you get some coffee? This might be a long night. Once Theo was out of earshot, I sat beside Nessa. Neither of us spoke for several long moments. What did you put in that drink? I finally asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She stared straight ahead. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. I saw you, Nessa, by the champagne table. You didn't think anyone was watching, but I was. Her breathing quickened, but she maintained her composure. You can't prove anything. I don't need to prove it, I replied. The toxicology report will show exactly what was in Caleb's system. Your husband's system, I emphasized. And then there will be questions, difficult questions. She turned to face me, her carefully constructed facade beginning to crack. What do you want? I want to understand why. Was the money really worth trying to hurt me? Nessa's laugh was hollow. You have no idea what that inheritance means to our family. That estate was built by Bennetts. That money was earned by Bennetts. You've been part of this family for 5 minutes, and suddenly you control everything my grandparents worked their entire lives to build. June chose me for a reason, I said quietly. Because you manipulated her, Nessa hissed. You played the perfect granddaughter while the rest of us were busy with our actual lives. The conversation ended abruptly as Theo returned with 3 coffee cups. The silence that followed was suffocating. That night at the hospital marked the beginning of a silent war between Nessa and me. On the surface, nothing changed. We still attended family dinners. We exchanged birthday gifts. We smiled in photographs. But underneath, everything was different. I hired a security company to install cameras throughout the estate. I changed the alarm codes monthly. I started having my food and drinks tested randomly when Nessa had been near them. Some might call it paranoia. I called it survival. The weeks following Caleb's hospitalization were tense. The doctors had found a combination of sedatives in his system that they couldn't explain. He had no memory of taking anything unusual. Nessa suggested someone at the party might have spiked the champagne as a prank. But her explanation fell flat when they asked why only Caleb was affected. I could have exposed her then. A single word from me would have been enough to direct suspicion her way. But that would have devastated Theo, who despite everything, loved his sister deeply. Instead, I began my own quiet investigation into Nessa's life. If she had tried to drug me once, she might try again, and I needed leverage to protect myself. What I discovered shocked even me. Nessa's perfectly curated life was crumbling beneath the surface. Her interior design business was failing. She and Caleb were 3 months behind on their mortgage. Credit card debt had piled up, luxury purchases, expensive vacations, all funded by plastic while they maintained the illusion of success. Most disturbing were the emails between Nessa and a man named Parker, a financial consultant with questionable credentials. Their correspondence detailed plans to help me manage my inheritance once I was in a more suggestible state. Parker assured her that the substance he provided would make me compliant enough to sign whatever documents they placed before me. I downloaded everything, storing copies in multiple secure locations. Insurance, I told myself, not revenge, not yet. 2 months after the anniversary party, Theo received a promotion that required frequent travel. Nessa immediately volunteered to keep me company during his absences. I worry about you alone in that big house, she told me over lunch, her smile not reaching her eyes. Besides, it would give us a chance to bond as sisters. That's thoughtful, I replied, matching her false warmth. But I've hired a live-in housekeeper. Marta starts next week. Disappointment flickered across Nessa's face before she masked it. Well, that's practical. Still, I'll drop by often. Sisters should stick together. Each of her visits became a carefully choreographed dance. She'd bring food, just to be nice, which I'd graciously accept and later discard. She'd suggest we share a bottle of wine, which I'd pour but never drink. She'd ask increasingly pointed questions about the inheritance, about my health, about my marriage. Theo mentioned you've been having trouble sleeping, she said during one visit, her concern seemingly genuine. I have these amazing herbal supplements that helped me through a rough patch. Would you like to try them? I smiled, declining politely. My doctor has me on a strict regimen, but thank you. As months passed, Nessa grew increasingly desperate. The facade of her perfect life was cracking visibly now. Caleb had been laid off from his executive position. They'd listed their house for sale. Rumors circulated about them downsizing, moving to an apartment. During a family dinner at their home, ID, their last before the sale finalized, I excused myself to use the bathroom. On impulse, I checked their medicine cabinet, finding an unmarked bottle containing small white pills identical to what Nessa had dropped in my champagne. I photographed the bottle but left it untouched. Another piece of insurance. That night, as we were leaving, Nessa hugged me tightly. We should have lunch soon, she whispered. Just us girls. I have a business opportunity I'd love to discuss with you. Her desperation was palpable, but so was her determination. I realized then that she wouldn't stop. The financial pressure, the resentment, the entitlement, they were a dangerous combination. I'd like that, I lied. Call me next week. On the drive home, Theo sighed heavily. I'm worried about Nessa and Caleb. Things seem really tight for them right now. You're thinking of helping them? I asked carefully. He nodded. Maybe a loan to help them get back on their feet. We have more than enough. My stomach tightened. That's generous. But would it solve the underlying problem? What do you mean? I chose my words carefully. Money problems are often symptoms of deeper issues. Spending habits, priorities, choices. Theo frowned. Nessa's always been responsible. This downturn isn't her fault. I didn't argue, but later that night, I pulled up the file of evidence I'd collected. The emails with Parker, the credit card statements showing years of overspending, the photos of the unmarked pills. Not yet, I told myself again. Not unless absolutely necessary. The lunch Nessa suggested happened the following week at an upscale restaurant of her choosing. She appeared more polished than she'd been in months. New haircut, designer outfit, fresh manicure. The desperate woman from the family dinner was gone, replaced by the confident, poised Nessa I'd first met years ago. Thank you for meeting me, she said, her smile bright as she ordered champagne for the table. I've been doing a lot of thinking about our family, about the future. Oh, I took a sip of water, watching her carefully. I haven't been fair to you, she admitted, surprising me with what sounded like genuine remorse. Grandmother chose you for a reason, and I should respect that. I've been so caught up in my own expectations that I couldn't see how good you've been for Theo, for the family property. The champagne arrived, and Nessa poured 2 glasses with flourish. To new beginnings, she proposed, raising her glass. To sisters. I lifted my glass but didn't drink, watching as she took a generous sip. I have a proposal, she continued, setting down her champagne. Caleb and I are starting fresh. Downsizing has been humbling but clarifying. We're focusing on what truly matters. That's admirable, I said cautiously. The thing is, she leaned forward, lowering her voice, we've found the perfect opportunity to rebuild. A property development just outside the city. Ground floor investment, guaranteed returns. The problem is, we need capital to secure our position. And there it was. The real purpose of the lunch, the reconciliation, the champagne. How much capital? I asked, already knowing I wouldn't provide it. 2 million, she said smoothly. I know it sounds like a lot, but the return would be substantial. You could be a silent partner, or consider it a loan with interest. I nodded thoughtfully, pretending to consider. Tell me more about this development. For the next 20 minutes, Nessa outlined an investment opportunity that sounded increasingly dubious. No specific location, no named developers, vague promises of exclusive access and guaranteed returns. It sounds interesting, I said finally. I'd need to see the prospectus, of course, and have my financial team review it. Her smile faltered slightly. It's moving quickly. We'd need to commit within the week. That's not a problem. Email me the details this afternoon, and I'll have my advisors look at it immediately. We finished lunch with surface-level pleasantries. As we walked to our cars, Nessa surprised me by hugging me tightly. I'm so glad we had this talk, she said. I feel like we're finally understanding each other. I returned her embrace, feeling something hard press against my side, her phone in her jacket pocket, recording our conversation. The realization sent ice through my veins. Whatever game she was playing had escalated. Me too, I replied, pulling away with a smile. I look forward to seeing those investment documents. That evening, the promised prospectus arrived in my email. It was impressively professional looking, but conspicuously missing crucial details. No company registration numbers, no verifiable developer information, no property titles. I forwarded it to my actual financial advisor with a simple question. Is this legitimate? His response came within hours. Stay away. Classic investment scam structure. Whoever sent this is either being deceived or attempting to deceive you. As I stared at his email, another message arrived from Nessa. Thinking about our conversation today. So happy we're moving forward as true sisters. Theo will be thrilled we've reconciled. By the way, I recorded our lunch discussion for my project on family relationships. Hope you don't mind. Again, the threat was thinly veiled. If I didn't invest, she would manipulate our recorded conversation to drive a wedge between Theo and me. That night, I couldn't sleep. Theo was away on business, and the house felt cavernous and empty. I pulled out the file of evidence against Nessa again, spreading it across our bed. The emails with Parker, the financial records, the photographs of unmarked pills. Not yet, I had told myself repeatedly. But now I wondered, if not now, when? My phone chimed with a text from Nessa. Need your decision by tomorrow. This opportunity won't wait. 2 million opens the door to so much more for all of us. I stared at her message, feeling the weight of the past year, the poisoned champagne, the whispered threats, the constant vigilance. I was tired of looking over my shoulder, tired of testing my food, tired of protecting Theo from the truth about his sister. Something had to change. Someone had to end this. I picked up my phone and called a number I'd saved months ago but never used. Caleb? It's Valerie. I'm sorry to call so late. Can we meet tomorrow? There's something you need to know. The coffee shop I chose was 30 minutes from both our homes, neutral territory where we wouldn't likely encounter mutual friends. Caleb arrived looking thinner than I remembered, stress etching lines around his eyes that hadn't been there a year ago. Thanks for meeting me, I said, as he slid into the booth opposite me. He nodded, fidgeting with his wedding ring. Your call was unexpected. Is everything okay with Theo? Theo's fine, I assured him. This isn't about him. At least, not directly. Caleb's eyes narrowed slightly. We had never been close. Our relationship defined primarily by our connections to Nessa and Theo, rather than any genuine bond. I'd always sensed he viewed me as an outsider. Not unwelcome, but not truly family either. I'm going to ask you something important, I said, keeping my voice low despite the ambient chatter around us. And I need you to be honest. Have you been experiencing any unusual symptoms lately? Memory gaps? Unexplained drowsiness? His posture stiffened. Why would you ask that? Please just answer the question. He looked down at his untouched coffee. Yes, he admitted quietly. For months now. Doctors can't figure it out. Some days I'm fine, other days I can barely stay awake. I've had tests, but nothing conclusive. I nodded, my suspicions confirmed. Have you noticed a pattern? Do these episodes happen on specific days, after particular meals? Confusion crossed his face, then dawning comprehension. You know something. Instead of answering directly, I opened my bag and removed a folder. Before I show you this, I want you to understand that I've struggled with what to do with this information. Theo loves his sister. Exposing her would hurt him deeply. Exposing her? Caleb repeated, his voice suddenly hoarse. What are you talking about? Exposing her. I slid the folder across the table. Everything is in here. Emails between Nessa and a man named Parker discussing how to drug me into compliance. Financial records showing significant cash withdrawals from your joint account corresponding with her meetings with this man. Photos of unmarked pills I found in your medicine cabinet. His hands trembled as he opened the folder, eyes scanning the first page of emails. This can't be real, he whispered. There's more, I said gently. Do you remember what happened at our anniversary party, when you collapsed? He looked up sharply. They said it was a reaction to alcohol and my heart medication. It wasn't. I took a deep breath. Nessa put something in my champagne. I saw her do it. When she stepped away, I switched our glasses. What you experienced was meant for me. The color drained from his face. He flipped through the folder with increasing agitation, stopping at the photographs of the white pills. These look like... He trailed off, then pulled out his phone. After a quick search, he turned the screen toward me. These. My doctor prescribed them for my insomnia last year. Nessa keeps them for me. On his screen was an image of prescription sleep medication, Emma says, powerful sedatives that, according to the warning label, could cause extreme drowsiness, confusion, and memory issues, especially when mixed with other substances. When do you take them? I asked. I don't, usually. Nessa gives them to me when she thinks I need help sleeping, mostly on nights before important meetings or presentations. His voice faltered. Days when I've been less functional. We sat in silence as the implications sank in. Caleb continued examining the evidence, his expression shifting from disbelief to anger to profound sadness. Why are you showing me this? He finally asked. Why not go to the police? Because this isn't just about what she did to me, or even what she's apparently been doing to you, I explained. It's about Theo, too. He deserves to know the truth, but I don't want to be the one who destroys his relationship with his sister, I thought. I thought you should decide what happens next. Caleb closed the folder, his jaw tight, and if I do nothing, then I'll protect myself by whatever means necessary, I said firmly. Nessa is pressuring me to invest $2 million in what my advisors confirm is a fraudulent scheme. She's threatening to use manipulated recordings of our conversations against me if I don't comply. This has to stop. He nodded slowly. I need time to process this. I understand, but not too much time, I cautioned. She's escalating. I don't know what she might try next. As Caleb stood to leave, folder tucked securely under his arm, he paused. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. About the inheritance. About how we've treated you. June was right to trust you. His words caught me by surprise. Thank you, I said simply. I'll handle this, he promised, his voice steadier than it had been during our entire conversation. Give me a week. The days that followed were excruciating. Nessa sent increasingly urgent messages about the investment opportunity, slipping away. Theo returned from his business trip, oblivious to the tension simmering beneath the surface of our lives. I jumped at every unexpected sound, checked my food and drinks compulsively, and slept fitfully. On the 6th day, Theo received a call from Caleb inviting us to dinner at their apartment, the modest 2-bedroom they'd downsized to after selling their house. Is everything okay? Theo asked, concerned. Caleb sounded weird. I'm sure it's fine, I said, hoping my voice didn't betray my anxiety. Maybe they have good news to share. The apartment building was nice, but unmistakably a step down from their previous home. Nessa greeted us with brittle cheerfulness, air kissing our cheeks and ushering us inside. The space was tastefully decorated but small, with moving boxes still stacked in corners. Sorry about the mess, she said, gesturing vaguely at the boxes, still settling in. Caleb emerged from the kitchen, his expression unreadable as he handed everyone glasses of wine. To family, he toasted, his eyes meeting mine briefly before turning to Nessa, and to honesty. Something in his tone made Nessa glance at him sharply, but she recovered quickly, smiling as she sipped her wine. Dinner was a strange affair. Theo carried most of the conversation, oblivious to the currents of tension flowing between the rest of us. Nessa seemed distracted, checking her phone repeatedly. Caleb watched her with sad intensity. As we finished dessert, Caleb cleared his throat. "We have an announcement to make." Nessa looked up in surprise. "This clearly wasn't planned. Nessa and I are separating," he said calmly. Theo nearly choked on his coffee. "What? Since when?" "It's been coming for a while," Caleb continued, his eyes never leaving Nessa's increasingly pale face. "We've grown apart, want different things, but you never said anything," Theo protested, looking between them. "I thought you were just going through a rough patch with the move and everything." "So," Nessa found her voice. "It's temporary," she said quickly. "We're just taking some space to figure things out." "No," Caleb contradicted gently. "It's not temporary. I've already filed the paperwork." The room fell silent. Nessa's hands trembled as she set down her coffee cup. "Maybe we should go," I suggested quietly to Theo. "Give them some privacy." "Actually, I'd like you both to stay," Caleb said. "There's something else you should know." Nessa stood abruptly. "This isn't the time." "It's exactly the time," Caleb interrupted, his voice firmer than I'd ever heard it. "Theo deserves to know why his sister has been trying to manipulate Valerie into giving her money." Theo turned to his sister in confusion. "What is he talking about?" Nessa's composure cracked. "He's lying. He's angry about the separation and trying to turn you against me." "Am I lying about this too?" Caleb pulled out his phone and played an audio recording. Nessa's voice filled the room, crystal clear. "Parker, I need results faster. The pills you gave me barely affected her husband at the anniversary party, and now she's suspicious. I need something stronger but untraceable. The inheritance has to come to me. It's mine by right." A male voice responded. The dosage we discussed was already pushing safety limits. "Any stronger and you risk permanent damage or worse." "I don't care," Nessa's recorded voice continued. "She doesn't deserve that money. Find something that works, or our arrangement is over." The recording ended. Theo stared at his sister, shock and disbelief etched on his face. "What did you do?" he whispered. Nessa's eyes darted around the room like a cornered animal's. "It's not what it sounds like. That recording is taken out of context." "I found these in our bathroom," Caleb continued, placing a small bottle of white pills on the table. "The same pills you've been giving me on nights before, important work presentations. The same pills you put in Valerie's drink at their anniversary party." "You've been drugging Caleb?" Theo asked, his voice breaking. "And you tried to drug Valerie? My wife? She stole what should have been ours," Nessa suddenly shouted, her careful facade completely shattered. $23 million, Theo. Our inheritance, our family legacy. This nobody walks in and takes everything grandmother built, and you just let it happen." The venom in her voice stunned us all into silence. "I didn't steal anything," I said quietly. "June made her choice." "Because you manipulated her," Nessa spat, "playing the perfect granddaughter while I was building my business, my life. You had nothing before you met Theo. Nothing. And now you control everything." Theo stood slowly, his face hardened in a way I'd never seen before. "The only person who tried to manipulate anyone was you, Nessa. You drugged your own husband. You tried to drug my wife. What was next? Were you going to hurt her?" Nessa didn't answer, but her silence was confirmation enough. "I think we're done here," Theo said flatly. "Don't contact us again." As we gathered our things to leave, Caleb handed me a thick envelope. "The rest of the evidence I found," he explained quietly. "Bank statements showing she embezzled from my company to pay this Parker person. Communications with someone about forging your signature on financial documents. It's all there if you need it." I accepted the envelope with a nod. "What will you do now?" He glanced at Nessa, who sat rigidly at the table, staring at nothing. "Start over," he said simply. "Somewhere new, somewhere honest." Outside in the cool night air, Theo was silent as we walked to our car. When we were inside, he finally spoke. "How long have you known?" "Since the anniversary party," I admitted. "I saw her put something in my drink. That's why I switched the glasses. He closed his eyes, pain etched across his features. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you love her," I said softly. "Because I didn't want to be the reason you lost your sister. I thought I could handle it myself." He reached for my hand, holding it tightly. "I'm so sorry, Val. I should have seen it. I should have protected you. You couldn't have known, but you tried to tell me," he insisted. All those times you expressed concerns about Nessa, I dismissed them. I chose not to see what was happening right in front of me. We drove home in contemplative silence. The weight of Nessa's betrayal hung heavily between us, but there was also a strange sense of relief. The truth, however painful, was finally out. 2 months later, we received notice that Nessa had moved across the country. Caleb's divorce was proceeding amicably, with him keeping quiet about the true reasons for their separation in exchange for a clean break. Theo had spoken to his sister only once since that night, a brief, painful conversation that ended with his making it clear that any relationship between them would require years of proven change on her part. As for the inheritance, I established a family foundation in June's name, dedicated to supporting women entrepreneurs. I invited Theo's brother and his family to spend summers at the country estate, keeping June's tradition of family gatherings alive. The house felt warmer, somehow, without the shadow of Nessa's resentment hanging over it. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't what you do to someone who wronged you, it's what you allow them to do to themselves. Nessa's own actions exposed her true nature, cost her her marriage, her relationship with her brother, and her place in the family. All I did was refuse to be her victim and give her husband the information he deserved to have. I often think about what June told me during one of our last tea sessions together. Wealth doesn't just test those who don't have it, dear. It tests those who do, and those who believe they deserve it even more. She was right, as she so often was. If you've ever had to stand up to someone who tried to take what was rightfully yours, hit that like button. Subscribe for more stories about justice and redemption. And please comment below, what would you have done in my situation? Would you have exposed Nessa sooner? I read every comment and would love to hear your thoughts. Remember, family isn't always defined by blood. Sometimes it's defined by those who truly want the best for you without expecting anything in return.